Welcome to Meeting of the Moms, a place to talk about all the things. I'm Lorna Adams. I'm a wife, mom, and certified life coach. I think being with people makes anything a party. Thanks for coming to ours. I'm here with my good friend Amy. For years, we've spent the early morning hours running and talking together before diving into our days.
Hey, I'm Amy Rasmussen. I'm a teacher by profession, a wife and mother by choice, an optimist by nature, and happy by design. Here at Moms, we believe the world is wide open to all of us and that we have unlimited potential. We're so glad you're here.
I love to write, and I just opened a new notebook, and I just love the clean pages. The notebook is just really flat, and anyway, it just is so fun to have this new start. And it totally is similar to a new year, right? A new year starting, we get a new clean slate. We get to create whatever we want for the year. Just like in my notebook, I just get to decide how I want it to go.
I also love a new notebook. In fact, I've had to train myself to look at a notebook and think, what am I going to use it for? Could I use the one that I only use for a little bit of stuff and then just use it up? And so I've had to train myself to use notebooks up. But my favorite is when I naturally use up a notebook and then get to start a new notebook. That is my very, very favorite. So
yes,
totally with you.
I totally agree. And like we've talked about our bullet journal. And so with notebooks, it's so fun to put page numbers on there and keep my first page open for an index. And yes. I'm not always using the index, but it is fun to be able to have a place to find all the things because lots of things can be hidden in my notebook for our podcast. So it's just fun to have an index.
Yep. And it's a learning process, figuring out the index.
Totally.
Yeah, let's jump in to New Year's Eve. So all of you wonderful people out there, if you are hearing this when it goes live, you're hearing it sometime on New Year's Eve. We're recording before New Year's Eve with you in mind and with us in mind, thinking about what do we all need to hear? What might be on our mind on New Year's Eve in the morning or afternoon or whatever. And so that's what we're coming to you with today. To hopefully help your New Year's Eve be what you want it to be and help it be something that feels really good. So to begin with, I just had these questions like, why is New Year's Eve even a thing? What's it all about? And I think often we're like, well, we all just know that already. But what if we just slow down for a minute and ask the questions?
Yeah. And just my quick answer for me is it's an excuse to have a party. Of course, that's why we do it. It's just to have a party, another opportunity.
Okay, but I love this. If it's an excuse to have a party, because I totally think there's going to be a whole group of people that's like, yeah, it's an excuse to make something special and whatever, right? The tricky thing about an excuse to have a party is sometimes it feels awesome because it's an excuse to have a party. And other times it feels heavy because it starts feeling like an expectation to have a party and to be in the mood for a party and all of the things, right? So we'll circle back to that, but it can be an excuse to have a party. Anything else that comes to mind?
Wrapping up the year, kind of a final goodbye to the year.
Final hoorah. Yeah.
And then an opening into the new year. I do have a friend that has commented on staying up for New Year's Eve is the worst possible way to start a new year. And I can totally see where she's coming from. Yeah, sometimes it does feel like that. And I think for me, I typically try to start officially the new year, kind of when my kids go back to school. So it's not necessarily January 1st that I'm trying to start all the new things, or if I'm wanting to implement new things or whatever, it's more of like the beginning of a work week or a school week. That's when it feels more of a good time to start.
Yeah. Yeah. So this makes me think, I mention all the time that I love Gretchen Rubin, and I think the way she would talk about this is that it seems like an auspicious kind of date. It seems like this important thing, the ending of a year, the beginning of a new year. And yet it's also extremely arbitrary.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, what makes the difference except for the fact that we decided this is how many days a year has and all of the things, right? But I thought it would be good to talk about those things you just brought up for a minute, and maybe we can break them apart a little bit. In thinking about this episode, I got on chat and I just asked, what concerns do moms and or parents have on New Year's Eve? And one of the things had to do with an emotional and mental load. So you said this is an excuse to have a party. So the emotional and mental load that can come up is like pressure to make the night special or memorable. Either I think individuals who are not parents can have the same thing, right? Like
Yeah.
it's New Year's Eve. Like I got to do something amazing to end this year and
Yeah.
start the new year. It's got to be amazing. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes that can be amped up if you're what I want to call the magic maker for a group. If you're the mom, if you're the dad, right? If you're the parental unit, whatever, that can be amped up. So thoughts about that part of the mental load, this idea of pressure to make it amazing.
Well, it makes me think my first thought went right to like teenagers, college students, that kind of an age group where they're looking for something to do socially. And if they
Yes.
don't have a great friendship unit right there, whether they've gone home, like if they're at college and they've gone home for the break,
Yep.
maybe their core friends aren't really there, or high school, maybe families are traveling and so they don't have that same experience or same opportunity. So that was my first thought when you said that. And I remember feeling the pressure of I want to do something on New Year's Eve. And I remember one New Year's Eve in particular, I was staying with my sister and her young family for New Year's Eve, and they went to bed. And I'm like, okay, what do I do? Like, this is weird. I'm not that I was a big partier, like go to all the parties. I've never been a partier, like a stereotypical partier.
Right.
But I do like to have parties and go to things. It was just, and I don't think I'd even had lots of them up until that point. But I just remember that night specifically realizing I have nothing to do on New Year's Eve and the house is kind of quiet. It's 9 or 10 p.m. and everyone's in bed. What do I want to do with that?
Was that when you were younger then? So an older sister
College.
or okay, so
like
single. You were single.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I think for whatever group you're in, single, married, with kids, without kids, whatever. I think we can either choose to take on that mental load or not. One of the other things that was mentioned specifically, probably for teens and young adults, but it could happen for all of us, is like, is my night going to actually measure up to what everyone posts on social media? Is it going to be as awesome?
Yeah.
So some solutions for some of this with social media, first of all, like a person could choose to stay off of social media.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure on like New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, a person could also decide, like, knowing I'm going to see a lot of people post about what they did on social media. And I'm going to go into that whenever that happens over the course of the next week or so, right after New Year's, that I'm going to have been a little bit intentional with what I chose to do, even if it's not my picture perfect thing. And I'm going to choose to be okay with it.
Yeah.
I'm going to choose to just to scroll on by. If it's something that starts making me feel bad, I have some things I can remind myself, like I chose to do it this way, or I did have to work. And so since work was part of it or whatever, I had a sick kid or whatever those things came in, then I chose to deal with what life threw at me in this way. And I'm choosing to just be okay with it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that is super powerful. I think like noticing the thoughts that are going to come up, like I'm missing out. I think that FOMO idea can totally come up on social media in all different times, season, whatever. And so just being intentional with like, yeah, it is totally fine that they did what they did. And it's totally fine I did what I did.
Yep.
Really, I could be home alone on New Year's Eve and it could be fine. It might feel painful if I feel like I'm missing out, but I could also decide, no, this is totally fine. I can do something fun by myself. Like that. And fun for me by myself, it might look different than what somebody else's fun by themselves might look like.
Yep.
Right. So I think you can just decide I'm gonna make it fun for me. And maybe that's going to bed early. Maybe that's reading a book. Maybe that's watching a movie. Maybe it's inviting some friends over. I also think that it makes me think of the idea, like when my kids were little, I wanted to have a New Year's Eve party, but it seemed like we were always traveling right before New Year's Eve. We would come home usually on the 30th. And at that point, I at times would think like, can I even throw a party? Like, is it too late? Are people already making plans or whatever? And there was one friend in particular that she would host an adult party and would reach out usually like the 30th, sometimes even maybe the 31st in the morning and say, hey, we're doing something tonight if you want to come. And so there was an adult party, couples party that was being hosted at times that we were invited to. And I really appreciated that. And I love the idea of it being like last minute, more low key. It wasn't like this grand, like I'm going to send out invitations and I'm going to make it a big party, like a stereotypical, beautiful, whatever Instagram worthy party. It just was come and we're going to eat and play games, bring something to share. So that was super fun to participate in some of those. And then as my kids got a little bit older, I was wanting to host something. I love hanging out with my family. And so I wanted to have family parties where we could invite other families
Yep.
to come with kids that maybe had similar ages of our kids, but then we could all be hanging out. We could do some kid things separate from adult things and then be together and play games together sometimes and whatever. And that's been how we've done a lot of our New Year's Eve in the last probably 10-ish years, is that kind of a thing. And a lot of times it is more of a last minute thing, 30th or 31st. We're kind of throwing out invitations, via text. Hey, do you guys want to come? And anyway, that's kind of how we've handled some of that.
Well, and I think really, especially if you celebrate Christmas, New Year's is only 1 week later, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And at least for me, it's more like, well, what do we feel like doing by the time it
Yeah.
rolls around?
Yep.
And so that is also like way easier for me not to have some big pre-planned thing, especially not
Totally.
planned before Christmas.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it just isn't on my radar in that way. So growing up, we would tend to like stay up and play games. I associate eggnog with New Year's Eve. Like we didn't have it for Christmas usually. We just had it for New Year's Eve. And that was always fun. Like we had a lot of fun doing that. My husband is the oldest in his family, and I don't know if that's part of the reason or if part of the reason is that his parents tend to just be like, this is dumb and going to bed. I don't know. But at least my experience with him and his family is that there wasn't a lot of staying up all night. And then my husband's like, I don't want to do that. I'm just tired the next day and I feel horrible. And so part of what we've decided to do has had to be informed by like our two different ways of wanting to do stuff. So we have had a couple years where we've stayed up really late. The other thing is, as a mom of young kids, I'm like, I do not want these kids staying up, and not little tiny, but old enough they could stay up and do stuff. So some years we did get invited to a friend's house, super fun. We did the whole stay up till midnight thing, played games, had a movie, all the things. But other times I was looking for unique ways to celebrate New Year's Eve. So I'm going to share a couple of those. One was that I would look up when midnight was in different time zones or in different countries. And that would be like when we would celebrate our thing. When we'd be like, yay, it's the new year in Greenland. That's one that I found was like, that corresponds to my children's bedtime.
When my kids were little, there were times where I would just decide, like, okay, 8 o'clock is going to be our countdown or whatever. Or sometimes it was even like some random number, like 7:43. All right, 10 more seconds. Let's count down. 10,
Yeah.
9. And then we would get out our kitchen pans and bang our kitchen pans. And then they could be to bed at a reasonable hour, right? Like just things like that to help still have a celebration if you want and not be up super late. So I love it.
Exactly. One of the things I loved about the different time zones or different countries is that then I actually Googled what do they do in that country. And so here and there, there'd be something where I'm like, well, that sounds super fun. Cool. We're going to do that. So I just love that idea of thinking outside of the box and just creating, like, figure out as you're going through life, what are like the sticking points for me for this particular event? What's getting in the way? And then figure out a way to keep it fun or keep it calm or keep it whatever that feeling and vibe is that you want. You don't have to do what everyone else is doing or what you think everyone else is doing or what is sold to us in the stores.
It just makes me think about even now with technology, I feel like you could watch at 10 o'clock p.m., you could watch the ball drop in New York because of technology, right? You could just pull it up and watch live there. And so I wonder, even with your ideas about throughout the world, maybe there's something you could even watch at a certain time or whatever with what's going on.
I guess what's so fun is we each get to create, in our own homes, in our own lives, with our spouses, with our kids, we get to create it. And maybe we want to create these traditions that we do all the time. And maybe we want to create a very flexible, like, let's see what each year brings and let's see what we want to do. One thing that my husband and I have talked about over the years is what if on New Year's Day, we get up early and go do a fun adventure? Everyone else is dead to the world. So, I mean, even that little tweak, right? Yeah. If for whatever reason you don't want to do the stay up all night thing, it's also possible to get up early. You could even get up early and go have amazing breakfast or make your own breakfast, right? There's just so many possibilities of what you can do. One thing that one of my sons brought up this year was he talked about another country where on Christmas Eve, you give books to each other. And I think I already told you about this, Lorna, and then you spend the rest of the night reading. I'm like, that sounds awesome for New Year's, actually. Yes. My whole family loves to read, right? So for 1 year, that could be totally fun if everyone got a new book on New Year's Eve and we just read. And we have a wood burning stove. We could read by the fire. Anyway, it could be super fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and really too, you could open it on New Year's Eve maybe spend a little bit of time reading, go to bed at a decent hour,
Yep.
and then wake up early in the, or not early, but just wake up
Right.
in the morning, have your nice breakfast, and then keep on reading, right? All
Right.
of this,
Right.
you could do an all-nighter if you wanted by reading,
Yep.
or do the different, or
Yeah.
even on New Year's morning. Like you said, we're going to go on that adventure. Okay, we're going to open our gift, our book,
Yep.
and we get to read here. And anyway,
Right.
love it. Love it.
Well, and it could be fun to get a book as a family. And let's say you're going to do the adventure thing on New Year's Day, you could read in the car. Like you could read aloud in the car. You could get an audiobook. I mean, there's just lots of ways to combine that. So anyway, that was just kind of a fun thing that came up this year.
That's so great. I was thinking about about kids and about not wanting to keep them up at night to celebrate or whatever. There's some friends of ours that they would actually host. They would invite after bedtime, after they put their kids to bed. Then that's when whatever that time was, 9 o'clock,
Uh-huh.
when they would invite couples to come over for a party. That could have been a Christmas party or maybe a New Year's type party or whatever. But just that idea of my kids are here. I don't want to worry about a sitter. So I'm
Yep.
going to wait till they're in bed and then we're going to invite people over too. Anyway, I just think there's lots of things you could do just as your own little family unit if you don't want to throw a party. And I also think you really could do something last minute if you wanted to, if that seemed fun. Anyway, I just think there's lots of options if you want to do something different tonight.
Yep.
For New Year's.
Yep. And I think just as human beings, we really like the thing, we like routine at times. We like habits, right? They make it so we can function in life. And then we really, really like a break from all of that, right? So coming back to your whole idea of like, well, it's an excuse to have a party. Yeah, it's just an excuse to be out of the norm. And there's lots of ways to make it out of the norm.
Yeah. One other thing that we have done at different times for New Year's Eve is to reserve a church and then invite friends to come there. And we've played games at the church with a ball. We've played a game
fun.
called Scatterball.
Like active
Yes.
games. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's been so fun. We could it could be however many people want to come and there's things to do. We could play basketball. That other game that we have loved is called Scatterball. Some family friends taught us that. Yeah. We taught you.
Yep.
Had played that at the church. And then I think we even ended up pulling out a movie and watching a movie there at the church that particular year. But I think that could also be a fun thing to do on New Year's Day. If it's cold where you live, see about a church and then going on New Year's Day maybe to have the adventure indoors at a church or something and doing games and activities in a cultural hall or something like that. Yep. So anyway, I think there's lots of options. And if it's warm, then things outside could be fun.
Yep. Part of it is finding your people. So if you're one who's like the friend that you mentioned, who's like, I do not want to start a new year tired, like, no way, then find the people who might want to do something on New Year's Day.
Yeah.
And if you're someone who's like, no, but I love the one night of the year when I stay up all night and just have the party, it brings back all my youth or whatever, great. Find those people. And then enjoy it. Enjoy what you found.
I know I've also sat in the space of, I don't even have people.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And that's felt lonely too. But I think looking for things you can do that could still be fun, even if it's not your people to join you. Right. Maybe it is just, maybe you have a little family, a spouse and kids, and you decide to make that a fun thing.
Yep.
Or even if you live alone, or maybe you're divorced and your kids are with your ex-spouse for that night. Yep. Looking for things, maybe other people in your similar situation, or just looking for things that would still be fun for you to do one-on-one. Lots of things are options virtually. Like if you have friends that live far away, you could do something virtually. Meet up like we do, right?
Right.
Yep, chat, hang out, have your hot chocolate or whatever, and just spend some time together. I also have heard of a family doing some games virtually, like Crazy Eights. And I need to look into this to how you would play Crazy Eights virtually. But I just think there are lots of options that maybe distance doesn't have to keep us from. Maybe there's some ways to reach out if our people aren't close, or if we don't feel like we have our people, maybe looking for things that you can do with yourself that would still be enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've absolutely also had New Year's Eves where it just is meh, or I'm like, but I don't even have a plan and I want to make it fun, whether it's for just me or especially those years when my spouse and I, when we were trying to figure out, well, how do we do this stuff where we grew up with kind of different things we did, or even as adults, we found we'd like different things. If I want to stay up all night and he doesn't, how do we navigate that? And I think that's just kind of a normal part of life. It's for sure a normal part of coming together with some totally different person and creating this marriage and then creating a family. And so I think just be patient. I think be patient as you're exploring, regardless of your age. At no point do we have to have arrived like, oh, we have it figured out. Now this is our tradition, because that changes too.
Yeah.
Maybe now staying up all night does not sound as fun to me. I would much rather do things that allow me to get my good night's sleep. And so just be patient. And then I think my final thought is, with being patient, also be willing to try some new and different things, especially if they're not the things that it seems like everyone's posting about and everyone says, but this is what it means to have a New Year's Eve party. Try new stuff and explore it and figure out like what works for you, and either you individually or with you and whatever your group is. If you have a husband or a wife and a family, then those are your parameters within which to explore. So yeah, just be open to exploring and be patient and gentle with the whole process.
And with yourself as you're going through it. So happy New Year's Eve. We hope you have a great day. Welcoming in 2026.
And please send us any of the things you do, because we do love to hear other people's ideas and just celebrate the cool things that people come up with. So comment or email us as ideas come up.
Thanks for coming to Meeting of the Moms. We hope it made your load a little lighter. We'd love to hear what's on your mind. Send your celebrations, takeaways, and suggestions for future topics to momswithamyandlorna@gmail.com.
If you enjoyed the show, please like, share, and subscribe. If this isn't the right fit for you, we wish you well on your journey. Until next time, I'm Amy Rasmussen.
And I'm Lorna Adams. See you next week at Moms.